All right, gentlemen. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Marsh, and other than my role here at MBKCares, I am also a co-founder of the organization, the Fathering Circle. And tonight's discussion is going to be with a group of men from all across the state who are going to be talking about the issues of fatherhood, a focus on programming that's available to fathers, and the need for fatherhood advocacy across the city. But first, I want to actually introduce my partner, Ihsan Hines. Ihsan, do you have anything you want to share with the group? Ihsan? I don't know if you can hear me or not. Ihsan, can you hear me? All right, well, listen, we're going to get that together. So what brings us together tonight, again, is a discussion around the issue of fatherhood. We want to make sure that we are elevating the voices of fathers during this very difficult time, situation that we're in right now. But we also want to talk to practitioners and advocates who are understanding the importance of the role of fathers. So what I want to do right now is I'm going to go through and I'm going to call on each one of you. If you can just briefly introduce yourselves, give us the very brief, just name, your title, and program that you're with, and then we can dig deeper into the conversations, right? So the first person I want to start with, and I believe your microphones might be muted, so double check your mics. I want to start with Art Terry from Steel City Dads.
Good evening, Eric, and thanks to you guys so much for the opportunity to join this conversation tonight. My name is Art Terry. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I operate a program called Steel City Dads, where we primarily provide 24/7 dad services, either one-on-one, via group, or through workshop. I work cooperatively in the community and in the corrections setting. We probably over the course of the year get the opportunity to come in contact with close to a couple hundred dads in various ways and means. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. All right, next on the list, I want to go down to Dewan Diggs, to focus on fathers. Dewan, introduce yourself to the people.
Thank you, Eric. My name is Dewan Diggs. I'm the lead parent educator for the Focus on Fathers program. Been facilitating parenting groups in the city of Philadelphia for the latter of 13 years. I'm a father myself, father of 5 children. My oldest is 23, and my youngest is 15. I had quite an experience here, in terms of what we do. I have to say this just real quick. I don't want to suck up a whole bunch of time. This is not a job. It turned out to be a job, but it's not. And it's a calling, and I got that years ago. But it's more than going on to just my experiences. What made me so relative to it is that I ran into other people who had experiences such as mine, and vice versa. And what came out of that was unity and resources, just amongst, and friendships, relationships. And so when you called, Eric, and thanks, Gil, everybody who's here, I've been salivating for this. I know programs in the city of Philly's been salivating for this. So when you call, I'm here. Yes. All right. But thank you for the opportunity. And I can't wait to get to it, man. I can't wait to see what bursts out of this.
No problem. Thank you for being here, Dewan. Our next guest is actually another board member of MBKCares, Lamar Dixon from Dedicated to Greatness. Lamar, how you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. What's going on, Eric? Just like Eric said, I'm a board member for MBKCares. I also run a nonprofit called Dedicated to Greatness, and or DTG Basketball. Our mission is to create groundwork for our players to develop skills within the assembly of basketball. So we've been doing it for about 2 years. I love basketball, and I think it, I met some of my best friends from it. So, I'll talk a lot more about it throughout the program, but I'm excited to be here.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. And we also have another Lamar on here, Lamar Brennan from the ELECT program. Lamar, how you doing? Introduce yourself to the folks.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, everybody. My name is Lamar Brennan. I'm the program coordinator and fatherhood lead for the ELECT program through the School District of Philadelphia. We work with fathers and mothers, but I primarily deal with the fathers who are in school, mostly high school, who have children or who are expecting. trying to make sure they get the education they need, whether it's at school, whether it's home, one-on-one, or group settings. We also try to make sure they get any resources that they need to prevent them from having to drop out of school. Our main goal is to get them to graduate, move on either to high school or vocational school, and letting them know that life don't stop just because you have a child. So that's our main mission.
Right. And last but not least, my brother Gil Coleman from the Mayor's Office of Reentry Services. Gil Coleman, please introduce yourself to the viewers.
How you doing, gentlemen? I'm Gil Coleman, the Director of Fatherhood and Family Services for the Mayor's Office of Reentry. We work with dads behind the walls and also dads who are being released. In addition to that, we work with child support enforcement along with DHS, trying to get the guys back on their feet once they're incarcerated or if they have some issues while they're on the outside. I've been doing this for 19 years. So I'm about ready to toss the torch to some of y'all younger brothers.
I hear that.
Absolutely.
I think it was a little apropos that your mic cut out a little bit around that time. So if they didn't hear it, we're not going to tell them. We just, we're just going to say you're a veteran at this right now. Okay.
We felt that one, man.
Y'all got it.
Right. Ihsan, brother Ihsan, you want to take us into the first question for the group?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, my name is Ihsan Hines. I'm also part of MBKCares, and I appreciate you all for being on here. Hearing your introductions was incredible to hear the different ways that as men and as fathers, you're taking the lead with just specific things that can improve our community. We're in an environment right now, we're in a climate of seeing racial disharmony and also just seeing how systemic racism has played out within our country, our government, our world. The things that you all are talking about provide systemic change, and I'm really grateful for the types of things that you all bring to the table, so thank you. We're going to start off with a question actually about 2020. So this started off this year with so much adversity, so I actually want to ask you all, what has 2020 been like for you in light of the COVID pandemic and also now with all the racial uprising that were going on within our world? I'm gonna start off actually asking that question to Mr. Brennan, Lamar Brennan. What's 2020 been like for you right now with the pandemic and the other climate that we find ourselves in?
For me personally, it's been a whirlwind, but it's also been oddly refreshing. I know that might be that might not be a popular thing, but I feel like with this COVID, it gave the world a much needed break from a lot of the, of course we've had a lot of tragedy as far as people losing their life and all that, but fortunate enough to have not gone through that. But a lot of people who's dealing with the rat race of the world and society, and I've seen a lot of people who have been able to utilize this time in a lot of positive ways, whether it's working on something, whether it's just getting a break and a rest, whether it's getting some more time with their family. So with the COVID thing, I think, it's been bittersweet. As far as with the unrest, I think this COVID actually aided in all of this unrest because people have more time to focus and pay attention to things that they didn't when they was in that rat race. So it's been a whirlwind, but I think it's been a much needed whirlwind because we kind of been, in my opinion, been stuck in the matrix to a degree. And so we a little bit are seeing on that to a degree.
That's a great perspective. Gil, did you want to add to that, or you have any thoughts to that same thing?
Well, I'm going to agree with Lamar. It's been a godsend, and then it's been a kind of a heavy burden on me because I know some people personally who have passed away from the ground they're going. And it also helped me to understand that focus, when you focus on everybody else, you don't take a focus on yourself. So what I did during this time is actually look at myself, see what some things I needed to do for myself to keep myself healthy. In addition to wearing the mask, going outside, but also exercising and get myself in shape so that I could deal with this once we go back to work, once we get back to somewhat not a normal routine, but somewhat of a routine back.
That's great insight. Brother Art, do you have anything you would like to add to that?
Oh, wow. 2020. I got to agree with both of the gentlemen who spoke previously, because I think you really have to look at it the two different ways. The COVID perspective, as well as what's happening in the world, in the Black atmosphere. I think from a COVID perspective, man, I got to agree with Lamar. It's been very refreshing. It was a little bit tough to deal with at first, but once I was able to develop a routine where I did simple things, but I did them regularly, it became much easier to deal with. Ate a lot, slept a lot, had to figure out a new way of how to focus delivery of the services that we provide. That was a nice mental challenge to actually have to go through. Looking at the issue of what we as Black men have to deal with on a daily basis, honestly, it was rather refreshing to see the rest of the world see what we really have to deal with on a daily basis. I don't think nobody really had a clue that we were under that kind of stress, that kind of toxic stress and pressure from the moment your eyes crack open in the morning until you can safely turn, you know what I mean, the lock on your crib when you come in at night. So I'm glad. I'm sorry, of course, for the circumstances, but the thing that's getting me is now, in the last couple of days, I've seen like 5 different videos of cats that have been killed at the hands of the police that nobody knew anything about.
Yeah.
For like the last almost year. That's appalling. One of the episodes was shot on the TV show Cops. It's just now coming out now. What happened when they shot it? What happened? It just goes to show the world that we live in. I'm glad folks see it, and I think that we as brothers began to see each other for that we realize we each have as well. So I think that's been a great thing to come from it. I've been fortunate to participate in some stuff on this end of the state along these lines, and I hear it often, man. Guys is like glad to be recognized. Guys are glad to have their voices heard, and guys are seeing that their perspective is not a unique one. It is very much a shared one. So there's strength in numbers, and I'm just glad to participate in the process. Glad to see it happening, quite frankly.
I appreciate that, and we're glad too, man. Brother DeWine?
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry, man, because I have to catapult myself into this conversation, brothers, and pardon myself. Reason being, I felt as though I was catapulted into this year. And Eric, I haven't seen you in passing, except for like very short terms, you know, but Eric kind of knows, you know, a little bit of the timeline. And so when I say catapulted, all right, has anybody been to Orlando and you get to the catapult, you get, you know what I'm saying, all over Facebook, you got the catapult and you got you and your kid or the girl and he's passed out and he wakes up, he passed out again, he wakes up, passed out.
Bungee cord, John, yeah.
That's the catapult, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how I feel, if I can be brutally honest. And so 2020, along with I lost my mother January 30th, which was the date that I believe the CDC and WHO called, you know, from quarantine efforts throughout the United States, the actual date. So again, get the sense of the catapult. I'm in the air, I have no clue, I'm not watching the news. I'm signing paperwork. Now the thing is that, and thank you brothers for listening, man. This is on me, this is therapy for me right now. Because with COVID-19, I haven't been able to get to the therapist. So I'll explain that a little later as well. But lost my mom due to complications from chemo. And come home. Those who do know me to work as therapy. I gotta work it out, as Chuck D says. Right? Brothers gotta work it out. So I will go to work to deal with my stress, something both negative and positive, because it gave me a sense of me shaking my mom's to shake the devil off and do something positive, right? Give back. So I would go to work. When I come back to work, of course, quarantine happens, right? And so we're a program who are up and running, trying to work in the prisons, doing work in anywhere where we can have work. We're trying to reach out to the fathers of Philadelphia. And so I try to busy myself with that, but then of course quarantine says, whoa. And so what I found myself dealing with is dealing with myself and having my family and my children, we all become one another's therapists. And so not only have we been talking as a family about this, but it now becomes, how do we stay safe? How do we feel comfortable staying safe? How do we help others stay safe? Okay. Along with, again, my catapult, not to eat up too much time, but with losing my mother so suddenly, I got catapulted into all of her business because of sudden death. So if anybody is unfortunate to feel this and understand what that is, there's a whole bunch of paperwork. There's paper trails. There's laws, interstate laws. There's things. So I have also inherited a position of authority that wasn't asked for, or didn't see it coming. Again, think of the guy who, shout out to that guy, I don't know who you are, but who kept passing out on the slingshot. I feel you. Okay, that's what my 2020's been like, but it's been one hell of a ride, and a lot has been learned, and it's continuous. Okay. So with that being said, there's some champion moments to be spoken about as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Dewan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Lamar D.
Yeah, for me, man, it's been kind of what Art and Lamar said. It's been emotional. It's been refreshing. Just for myself, I've been going to school for the last, last 8-9 years, with my undergrad and MBA, running the program and being a dad. So to be able to sit still is, it's been refreshing, just to enjoy my children, just to enjoy my home. That part's been refreshing, but the year has been emotional, just starting from January with Kobe Bryant, with his death. And for me not to know him at all, or, I've seen him play, it hurt me. And it hurt me for like a couple of weeks, and then just to, just see how people are taking with COVID-19, and how people are losing jobs and families are starving. It's that part is emotional. You just hate to see that. But yeah, that's about it for me.
So thank you for sharing that, gentlemen. Dewan, you touched on some really important stuff, and I want to also, the fact that Lamar B and Art also touched on this being the transformative time. The question that I want to ask you gentlemen next is, given the current state of the world in response to the George Floyd murder, and also with the pandemic exposing, essential workers, right? And who's really vital, who's an essential worker and who's not. And we're focusing on our society and really showing the racial disparities. What's some advice, or what are some things that you would say to specifically African-American fathers, Black fathers right now, in managing this situation, in coping with this, in what you identify as a Black father, or a Black father advocate? What are some things that you want to say? And I want to kind of go in reverse. So let's go with Lamar and then Dewan.
Yeah, I would say this is like the perfect time to prepare them for life. I do a lot of scenario things with my children, just how to act when you're pulled over by a police officer, how to deal with a bully. This is the perfect time to sit your children down and prepare them for life. For anything that's, financially, it's just certain things that I feel like myself, just growing up without a dad, that, I had to learn on the way about just bank account, registration, insurance, and how to deal with the police, how to deal with those situations. I think that this is the time that you have to sit them down and prepare them for life, and how to adjust. Everything's not going to go your way. I know there's probably March 15th, there was a lot of parents that woke up that day, getting ready to go to work, and then to see that it was a shutdown, that they don't have a job to go to, is just, how do you adjust to that? And that's something that I think that is a lesson in there that we can teach our kids how to prepare for something like this if it ever occurred again.
DeJuan.
It's always been education, and that's my education. And what I mean by that is pumping that to the brothers that are my next door neighbors, the brothers on my corners, on my blocks, whoever I go to. I'm in Virginia a lot. I'm in DC a lot, all through this quarantine. Educating yourselves. Educating yourselves. Even with the George Floyd case, educating yourselves. And my Spike Lee voice, education. Educate yourselves, because this is nothing new. And if I can speak freely, you've been killing us. You've been doing it. When did you ever stop? I've experienced it myself. I've had a pistol underneath I had a Glock 19 underneath my chin. When is it gonna stop? It's never stopped. It stopped when that brother had a decision to make, or that young Caucasian brother or whoever it was who was behind it, because mine wasn't a Caucasian. Educate yourselves. It's out there, and so I that's what I do. And to piggyback right off of, or leapfrog right with Lamar saying, is my children. That's what I say. That's what kept me sane. Is me and my children having a comfortable space, a safe space, meaning emotionally how we feel about one another to discuss these things.
Excellent.
To understand, we have to educate ourselves. There's ways that you move. There's ways of conflict. You don't run around. Yeah, it's ways you speak to somebody. It's ways that you control yourself emotionally. Yeah. And so again, it's education. That's why I've been at, and that's what, again, back to my catapult, gentlemen. That's what I feel. Doctor, I want to give a shout out to my professor, Dr. Nawami. He says, the cure for oppression is education. Educating ourselves. And I live by that now, man. And let me say something. This ain't something I live, I've been living 20 years off of. No, I just found this out. Now I'm realizing what the education does. Mm. So that's what I do, man. That's been my focal point.
So as an adult, all right, we're gonna come back to that, because you just said something that's powerful. Just even as an adult, learning how to navigate this space. So, Brother Art, I know you said that you, part of your program is involved with men who are incarcerated.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would like to tell Black fathers, or all fathers out there, actually, but specifically Black fathers, given the current state of situations now?
Well, as you look at Corona and as you look at what's going on with George Floyd, I would admonish all fathers, and particularly African-American fathers, to accept this challenge. Accept it wholeheartedly. This is a wonderful opportunity to look inside yourself and see what you really are made of, because you'll be presented with opportunities to determine for yourself what manhood is, how you respond and react to people whose circumstances and situations are of vital importance to you. When it really comes down to life or death, men are looked to make decisions. So please, by all means, accept that challenge, but you have to do it wisely. There's a saying in incarceration, you got to do the time and not let the time do you.
Absolutely.
The situation applies to exactly what we're dealing with right now. We got to do COVID and George Floyd, and don't let George Floyd and COVID do us. Like Brother said, educate yourself. Education is the key. It's the only thing in the world that can defeat ignorance. It's also the most dangerous tool in the possession of a savvy black man. That's what truly makes us dangerous. They have no idea what's under the hood, okay? As it relates to the family, I admonish black dads to, number one, as it comes to their relationship skills, please by all means stretch your communication skills. We are known to isolate. We are known to withdraw when things become troublesome to us without letting those who are close to us know that's what we're doing. They only know because they've observed us in this process for enough times, and they say, oh, he must have something on his mind again, okay? Stretch them communication skills and reach out first. Reach out first. And as it relates to your kids, build new skills. Go back to some of the old ways. Okay, school's not in. I can remember as a kid, man, my mom used to have a deck of cards that she played 52 cards. I learned how to count money. I learned how to do addition, all by learning how to play solitaire and tonk and my brain got sharp from concentration. You lay all the cards out on the table face down and y'all sit there and talk about what's going on during the day. Flip them cards. That's family. That's strength and love, man. Let's take this opportunity to build strength and love when it's given to us. I ain't gonna get religious or nothing, but God stopped the world so we could do this. It was necessary. And he did that for us. Just like he put George Floyd on every television set in the world. He did that for us. So let's accept this opportunity. Let's step up. Let's I realize the power of social media, and I'm gonna stop here, but I'm gonna ask that we talk and not text. Let's keep it face to face, man. Let's kick it like brothers do. Let's keep it real, man. Let's look in another brother's eye and find that strength that's in there, man, because he know what I'm going through and I know what he's going through too, dog. And we can pound each other up, keep it moving. You dig what I'm saying? Give each other strength, man. I mean, that's the only advice I can give.
That's beautiful. No, that's wisdom.
As a father of three who just attended, my granddaughter is like 8th grade promotion. You know what I mean? Today, I'm proud as all hell, you dig? But what these little cats don't know is that she got a psycho grandpa. And she be telling the little boys, oh, that's my granddad's car up the street. Don't worry, he just gonna be there. I mean, it's like that, man. Look, dog, accept your responsibility. Play your role, dog. Play it well. Play it like you know how.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Gil, do you want to jump on, piggyback on to anything that was shared?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like my man said, like God said, this is an opportunity for us to make a change. And we actually are going through, y'all mentioned COVID, you mentioned Brother George. We also got a knucklehead in the White House. So we got a triple threat. So we got to deal with all three of those at one time. And what I would say to the younger brothers is to, like everybody else said, learn, get involved, and make a change. I talked to my daughter right before the election. I said, baby, are you registered to vote? She said, yeah, I'm registered. But she's registered at her school in East Stroudsburg. So she couldn't get in to vote in the primary. So I'm telling now, all the young people I know, get involved. First thing you do is make sure you get registered to vote.
Yes, sir.
We got a triple threat. We got to take care of ourselves regarding the COVID. We got to respect George and get involved with the situation with the civil unrest. And also, we got to make sure that this dude don't get another chance.
Yes. Well, speaking of, you mentioned something about young boys. So I'm going to pass it to my young boy, right? I feel like Lamar B, because you specifically work with pregnant and parenting teenage dads, you know, what are some advice, what are some things that you're seeing that may be different than the perspective that we as some older dads dealing with older dads have? And what are some advice that you would give the younger boys, the younger dads that's out here?
I would say kind of 4 components: education, I would say humbleness, I would say stability, and like the importance of like protecting what you love in this world. And when I say what that is, what I mean by education is not just what you learn in school. And this is coming from a school district employee, but I'll say what needs to be said because it is what it is. A lot of our formal education is miseducation within itself to begin with.
Oh, say that again.
A lot of our formal education is miseducation, which is why a lot of our students check out, to be quite honest with you. But you need to know that because you need to play the game and you need to know what you need to know. But you also need to do your own research and your own education. This COVID is the prime example. So much misinformation going on the internet, on the news, everywhere that it got people even living in fear or living erroneously. And so to be able to learn both things and then separate what makes sense and what don't is an invaluable skill. The humbleness I would say is because this show, like nothing is promised. Like our whole way of the world has changed like over the last few months. People who thought they had it all figured out, they might have been like a CEO of a company or whatever, is all gone. So the importance of humbleness is great. It even goes to the whole essential workers thing. I keep all this doctors and nurses things, but the most essential workers been the grocery stores and the gas stations. All of our so-called professionals are sitting at home. We don't gotta walk out the door, like to be quite honest with you. So who's really important? And they're the ones who get paid the least. So I hope people are humble and respect those people and having a humbleness, especially with our young people, like it's such instant gratification at their age that, just be humble as far as, progress. Slow progress is better than no progress. And I see that with a lot of them running in the stores. I'm not going to get into whether I agree with that or not, but I understand because they're young and they want to look nice. But there's nowhere for them to even go to look nice, but that's part of the societal information and teaching that we've given to them. Then also, the flexibility is for when they're talking to their kids. I feel like they need to be flexible in the sense that it's okay to not know everything. I think we spend so much time trying to know everything and be everything. It's totally fine to say, I know this, but I don't know that. And I think that's great transparency to tell to your kids, because so much things is happening right now that 3 months ago, this was a fact, and 3 months later, this is not a fact. 3 months touching stuff, you was going to get COVID. Now they come out a few days ago talking about it's rare to get to get COVID from touching surfaces, or you can't get it from asymptomatic people all of a sudden. So things change, and it's cool to not know. It's always good to learn as you go along, and to teach your kids that it's good to know to learn as you go along, and also just to protect who you love. You loving our community. So I'm loving. I can say this for all. I keep after the loot, and I kept hearing all this be safe stuff whenever I walk out the house. I'm not saying I'm for or against either one of them, but as far as a community, I haven't felt unsafe walking out of my door yet, to be honest with you. So if we could be, unfortunately, they are taking it out on like looting and stealing and all that, and putting themselves in harm's way, and nothing is worth your time, not even 30 seconds in somebody's job, nothing. So that's pretty like silly, but at the same time, the unity that I'm seeing within the community and the love that we've been having for each other has been very great. So like, I hope you keep this protection of our family and of our fellow brothers and sisters going as we move forward.
Yeah, so Ihsan, before you jump in there, I actually want to add two things that Lamar just made me think of. One, Neil deGrasse Tyson has a video that he did an interview recently where he was talking about, the question was, what did he want to leave the world with, right? What kind of memory did he want the world to have of him after he's gone? And he was saying that he wanted to be recognized for having helped people learn the process of learning, right? Even to the point where he didn't care whether or not he was remembered as the person that taught you how to learn, but just that people learned how to learn, right? Understanding that scientific process, understanding how to question everything, how to move into things. And so I think that like that spoke to me as a father, because something that was said earlier, my role as a father, I remember teaching my son chess. And one of the reasons why I taught him the first reason why I taught him chess was because I knew it was good critical thinking skills teaching. The second reason was nobody had taught me, and I had always wanted to learn. So I used that as an a learning opportunity for myself, but then also teach him. And so I would also add to this conversation by saying, you know, when DeJuan, you was talking about education, Art, you were talking about education, everybody was talking about, you know, preparing yourselves during this time. So I would say the same thing. I really want to echo this to every man, and I'll even say every person that's watching, because we have a lot of single mothers that watch this show. We have a lot of parents who watch this show. And I would say, just recognize that you don't want to squash your child's ability to learn, because you can learn in that same process. And the second thing was that currently one of the things that's happening across the city is my brother Taj Murdoch from Team Inc. is working on a Juneteenth march for Black men. It's going to be a silent march here in Philadelphia. And I would encourage everyone that's here to be able to come out on Juneteenth from 12 to 2 52nd Street to show that solidarity. Because again, as Lamar said, this idea of walking out your door and feeling safe, you know, that's something I wish for all of my brothers and all fathers across the city. And that display of unity and connectiveness that's going to happen on Juneteenth, I think is the catalyst. It's, again, George Floyd and the worldwide protests are one part of this, but then there's another stage. We got to take the bull by the horns and actually take advantage of this opportunity. So I just wanted to share that piece. Ihsan, did you have a question for the rest of our guests?
I wanted to ask actually Lamar Dixon. I wanted him to give some input to that same question about what he would say to young men or fathers in particular, because I've known Lamar since we were 14 years old, and I know that Lamar was also a young father. So I think that he has some part of his own experience that allows him to be able to be compassionate or just relevant to that discussion as well. Lamar, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, it's you know, I had my son when I was 17 years old. I was in high school. I was in my 12th grade, senior year of high school, and you know, not having a father, it's you know, you don't know how. For me, I didn't know how to prepare for it. I didn't know how to, you know, teach my son different things. So it was just it was more of learn as you go. And one of the I think throughout my life, it was like different quotes that just stuck with me. And one of them was, if you give 100% all your time, all the time, somehow things will work out in the end. And I think that's how it is with being a father. Is just you give 100% all the time, you're going to figure it out. You know, just don't think that, you know, I'm doing something wrong, or, you know, you have all these outside influences. You know, as long as you know that you're doing the right thing, you know, just stay on course and adjust along the way.
The educational piece that y'all were talking about, I found myself this week actually having to educate my son on like how to not worry about winning a battle, in particular when it's with the cops, right? Like picking your battles, because I want to educate him, and I'm guessing this is something that every man out here, particularly Black men, can understand. The fight can't happen if you're on a dark road, just you and a cop. You might just have to take that as a loss one time. And I'm not saying we got to die there, but as you see a cop pulling you over, we have to educate our children on put your hands on the steering wheel. You know what I mean? Like, inform them when you're reaching for the glove box that I'm reaching for my license or my registration or whatever. I'm reaching for what you're asking me for. And even just saying that very, very, very articulate, I'm reaching for this, so that they don't have an excuse to say this person was reaching for a weapon or whatever. And that's difficult. It's uncomfortable to have to ask that, to tell it to my 10-year-old son, but I want him to learn it. And those are lessons that us as Black men, we have to teach our children. With the education we're talking about from school, diet, fitness, all those types of things, we got to educate them on how to stay alive and pick and choose your battles. And that made me think about how this racism stuff and how injustice just plays out in conversations that we don't necessarily have to have. While we're also talking about the education piece, because I think, and I know a lot of our audience is not just Black men. A lot of our audience are women. A lot of our audience are white men and women. And a lot of people are looking for solutions to try and understand our plight. Right now is a time where the conversation is sensitive, right? Everybody wants to know what's going on. When it's not heightened, when this is not what we're talking about, this is something we still have to deal with. And I want y'all to care even when it's not something we're talking about. And that goes for everybody. When Father's Day comes up, that becomes a time when women sometimes choose to say, they try to throw us under the boat. You know what I mean? And don't cut the legs under a black man right now. That's all I'm saying. And also, don't forget this conversation and let it be rich when it's not popular. Would you say, Amar?
Hey, Issa, can I ask a question to the panel?
Absolutely.
Like, what advice would you give your son if he was in a situation where, similar to George Floyd, where the police were, arresting him, knee on the back? What would you give advice to your son if he saw his friend in that situation?
Oh, I actually had this conversation.
Eric,
Can I jump in?
Yeah. I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, you touched a nerve on that one because my oldest son is 25, right? And he is at that age that I am deeply concerned about him being out in the middle of the protest. Thankfully, he's a laid back kind of dude. So he's like, nah, I'm good. I'm home. But, we had a deep conversation where he has a younger brother on his mother's side who is autistic. And he's mildly autistic, so you necessarily wouldn't know by first seeing him, right? But he doesn't really talk that much. And so we already know that the police force in this country not trained to deal with people with any type of differences or challenges, right? And so he actually asked me the question. He said, I could just imagine seeing my brother down there on the ground under that cop. I don't know how I react. How should I react? And he literally said, no, Dad, I'm asking you the question, like, how should I react? Yeah. And so we had an honest conversation, everything from, putting yourself physically in between the cop and that other person and risking your life or to save that other black man's life. Because that was really something that came up. Like, we can't just be bystanders. But knowing that fear of losing your life is what stops most people from acting, right? But you have to value life, and you have to teach the value of life. And so, we went through a couple of different scenarios, and he said, I'm really concerned that I wouldn't even know how to act in that moment. And I said, but that's the reason why we're having this conversation now. We have to have these conversations. We have to prepare our young people ahead of time, because we know this is the reality of this world. This is the reality. Like DeJuan said, they've been killing us. They don't need an excuse. We don't have to pull our pants up. We don't have to speak in a better tone. We don't have to have a tie on. It's been happening. And so the reality is, prepare your young men and women as early as possible, not traumatize them, but make sure that they're prepared for when that situation comes up, that your ID and your registration is somewhere that you can reach it. And this goes not just for police altercations. I say the same thing for just being in the hood. You have to have a sense of awareness about your surroundings, about who means you harm and who doesn't mean you harm. So I've had this conversation with my son in the past 2 weeks about thinking about this stuff. Don't just, as black men, we can't afford to just live in this fairy tale like, I hope it don't. Right. Cedric the Entertainer used to have a joke years ago where he said, white people live in the world of a wish, and white people live in a world of hope, and black people live in a world of wish. Yeah. Like, I hope such and such doesn't happen. When black people are like, man, I wish you would. I wish you would. Right? You kind of have to be prepared for this. And I'm not going to use the language he used, but again, that sentiment goes back to being prepared. Yeah. So I just wanted to jump in there. But who else? Somebody else? Anybody else?
Real quick. I hate to sound trite, but the beautiful thing about nowadays, every one of your kids, I bet, got a phone. Mm-hmm. While I tell them to do exactly what was done in terms of videotape that there, I'm also going to tell them to do that other thing. Press them 3 digits, 911.
That's exactly what I told him. Thank you.
There is a police officer killing my friend.
Yes.
Help. Please send help too. sound as crazy as you got to. Maybe like that woman up there in Central Park. I don't care. Use the same tool on them they use on us.
Yes.
We have equal right to operate in this system, and please use it.
And I'm glad, Art, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did tell my son that. We went through a couple of different scenarios, and I told him, if you call 911, ask for a lieutenant or a sergeant. Ask for one of those white shirts to show up on the scene.
I need
a supervisor. Ask for a supervisor. Yes, don't just stand there and film it. Call and ask for a supervisor.
I need to watch commander.
Watch commander, yes.
Can I add something to that part of the conversation? I'm pass it to one of y'all. I'll pass it to you, DeJuan. But I work as a tow truck driver for the city of Philly, and this might actually get me in some trouble, but to benefit my people, I think is important. I found myself on the scene of a lot of vehicles being taken by the police from the livestock program, or from state troopers taking people's vehicles with it being like a state police livestock or a safety tow. Have your registration. If you don't have it, this is just something that can help you. If you want to register your vehicle, you can do it from your cell phone. It takes maybe like 10, 15 minutes. All the information you need is in your car. You need your odometer reading. You need the information from your driver's license, and you need the information from your insurance. If it's just expired and you can renew your registration online right then and there, you actually can get your vehicle out of the livestock. And I've seen it happen. We've gotten on the scene of vehicles that are taken, and they've told the person, when we got there, they told the driver, this vehicle now has proper paperwork. And I've noticed that a lot of times that happens when the vehicle driver or operator is a white man or a white boy. And they've given an opportunity, but when it's a black man, it's not always the same opportunity. So you know, you do have a right to request a supervisor if you feel uncomfortable about a livestock. I've been on the scene of livestock where they called a supervisor and they found out that it wasn't supposed to be taken, and the vehicle actually was returned to the owner at that point. So you can request a supervisor to explain something to you better and to make sure that you're not being treated unfair, because a lot of times the livestock, your vehicle is being taken in the middle of the night in a hood that you're not from. I've seen people had their cars snatched in Kensington, and they're from Upper Darby, and they just got to be left with their car, and they have to walk through Kensington in the middle of the night. So educate yourself about the supervisor stuff, or just know that that is available to you. Register your vehicle online right there on the spot. And also, don't escalate the situation. These people are people. They're cops, they're police officers, they're people. They have feelings just like we do. If you communicate with them a certain way, you might actually do yourself some service. But if you come out already confrontational, you're setting yourself back. I'm not saying that they're going to always go by kindness, but I'm saying you being arrogant or you just trying to escalate it to make it a scene is not serving yourself. So I would say try kindness at first. If it doesn't work, just be quiet, because 9 times out of 10, it can escalate even whether or not you're kind or not. But don't make it go worse yourself. I've seen people take out their cameras and start cursing the cops out just to escalate them, calling them names and all these other things to get them to respond. That's not good for you either. That's not good for any of us. We don't need to give people a reason to justify the stereotypes that they already hold.
I would like to.
Hey, before you jump in, Lamar B, I just want to add, like, just being mindful of time. I also want to make sure that we move towards you guys getting a chance to talk about your individual programs, who you serve, and your contact information, and then also resources. So, but we're going to move into that in a few minutes. But Lamar, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
I guess to answer both the last two, replies to both of the last two things we were saying, and they both related to police brutality. One, I've thought in my mind, like, what would I do in that situation? I would like to think the situation would probably be the situation, the context of the situation. If a gun is already out, then I'm going to do the phone and the police thing. In the George Floyd situation, I would probably it's easy to say what you would do, but I would like to hope that I would like try at least to distract this person enough to get off of him for a few seconds or something, even if that means I get pushed around a little bit, like but that's
a lot
said and done. Yeah, a lot.
Little dude could have kept me off. I don't think little dude could have kept me away though.
That's what, and that was my part. I don't mean to cut you off.
Tattoo could have kept me off of him.
But that's the point, right? Like again, and I don't mean to keep beating this as a dead horse, but we have to move beyond that fear, right? And not that we threatening the cop, not we trying to, you know, knock the cop out, but anyway, just putting your body in the way. We've seen generations through the civil rights era do that. Like our ancestors and our grandfathers and grandmothers have put their bodies on the line for one another. So I just want to, like, you know, what's that saying? We're not born of a spirit of fear, right? Let's just
seen a grandma, a 90-year-old grandma. I saw a video clip like last week, CNN. A 90-year-old grandma came out the house in her nightgown and her cane, right? Because the police had followed her grandson home into her driveway, had him out the car, laying down on the lawn, face down with his hands with their guns drawn, like 3 cars, because he went through a stop sign, they said. Grandma came out the crib, man. 90 years old in the nightgown. So no, we're not born of the spirit of fear. And it's something that's been in us. And I think the important thing about right now is that backbone is being stiffened. Getting filled a whole hell of a lot much milk, some calcium. It's getting some nice calcium deposits in that backbone, Jack.
Yeah, that's more like don't record me, help me.
Right. I'd like to jump in and just say, I've been stopped quite a few times. And one of the things I try to do is think about, I'm not putting myself in the cop's shoes, but we see it when they come in our neighborhood. Before they even come when they pull me over, one cop came on the driver's side and one cop came on the passenger side. Now the cop on the passenger side has already got his hand on his weapon. So now they already come out, already hyped, already ready to do something. And then I have to look and say, why is he like that? Why is he all set and ready to take me out? Then I look at the cop. I'm 6'2", 240 pounds. This guy is weighing about $150, right? So, you know, he's already intimidated by my size. And I think George was quite a big guy. 6'6". And he's also get that fear too. He don't relax until he got some partners. But I'm like, okay, this guy is stopping me. He already got his hand on his gun. I'm not going to aggravate him. Why? I'm just going to listen to what he says, respond to his actions, because they already got that mentality. And I just tell my brothers in the class, I said, look, when that guy comes to the police station, he comes outside, is he ready for a confrontation? He got that Batman belt, his talon in it, his gun, all that stuff, he's strapped. He already prepared for a confrontation when he comes out. And we in the car, are we ready for that?
With the Batman.
But that's their training. But that's part of the police training. Right?
And I don't mean no harm. I live in the hood. I'm hearing gunshots like every other day.
In Minnesota, they got that thing called warrior training. Their police union did warrior training with them.
Right.
That's the mentality they was raised on. So, I mean, they coming out the door looking to get busy.
And it's also a internal just prejudice and fear of Black men in general, even before they become police officers. Just from America and from the world, period. Just because we Black men, we looked at as more dangerous, more this, more that. And I think one of the things that get missed in this fight for police brutality is the everyday harassment that we go through that don't lead to shootings. And that's one of the ways I think white people dismiss what we're talking about. A lot of people, all right, 200, however many people get killed, which is not the right number, because that's just what they report first and foremost. That's never going to be the real number. But the everyday harassment, which you following me for 10 blocks, to your point, looking for a reason to take my car. I've been pulled over specifically for them to see whether or not I got a warrant. They're not even trying to see whether or not they're gonna give me a ticket. They trying to see whether I got a warrant for no reason. Giving tickets is using us in the inner city as revenue for the city. The everyday minutia of the goofy, irritating harassment that they do to even say, like with me, I've always had, I know when I get in the car, I gotta have everything, license, registration, all that. They don't allow to stop me plenty of times. But I can let any female in my family drive my car without a license because they're not even checking for them. A young black person, especially if I'm with my homies, bunch of like the everyday harassment that on top of the fact that I feel like death is just one of the end results, the most extreme end result. These, what people around the world gotta understand, all right, even if it ain't ending in death, it's plenty of unfair and brutes and just plenty of things that they've done. And I'm about as calm as they get. So for me to have a bunch of bad interactions with police over the years, everybody not as calm as me, especially when you're being treated unfair, you being picked and pointed out on and picked on. So even when you the calmest, because I'm never that type person. They just their people skills is horrible. Like so, I look at that as just as big of a problem as the killing, the everyday annoyance of the police.
All right. So let me jump in here real quick because I want to switch this on in terms of who's that?
1 second, it's Ihsan. Dewan's been trying to get on for about 10, 15 minutes now.
I
educate, right? I love Spike Lee, guys. I love him.
I was coming to you, Dewan, with this.
I know. I just want to throw something in there. If we understand and look at our history for really what it is, right? Because when I heard about all of this, right? Well, let me say something, because I was down south, and I just happened to with all this loss in my life, I've been trying to reconnect with my brothers, man, and so I've been going down south. I've been riding around when I can safely, and going around. And so I just want to say something. If we know the history about all this police brutality or systemic racism, like we think about these things, think about if this is going on in the street, what do you think is going on behind the wall, right, Gil? Think about that. I want to share some awareness, because we're talking about the lost tribes over there. Those guys out there, after a couple of years, 10 years or 5 years or 3 years, you forget about them. Family members, forget about them. So if we're dealing with this systemic racism on the street, what do you think they're doing with the brothers who's behind the cage?
Well,
and where is that at? Where's the outrage for that? Is it just because they're criminals? They still breathe.
Yeah.
Everything like us, they're still human. But I say that because everybody's not there behind it. Everybody that's out there is not that criminal. Everybody behind that wall is not a criminal like we think they are. So again, I want to say that because it happens on that side too.
Right. And
that's what's worse.
True. And they're using that as a farm system to keep the recidivism going. Because they just got them in there festering. So they can come right back in to keep that industrial complex going instead of actually doing any kind of work with them to better to when they come out, they ready to adjust.
Rehabilitation.
So if we know all of this, because this is where I was going to go, and I was going to pass it to Dewan specifically for this, but if we know all of this, right? Because we're really just preaching to the choir by saying all this at this point. Everybody on this program knows that. I don't know if the folks watching it know, but we know that. Explain to me how your program, specifically your program, is helping to educate Black dads or the dads that you serve in addressing this issue or facing these challenges so that we don't keep repeating this cycle. And
it's so deep. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you was passing it to me.
I was just about to say, go ahead, Dewan. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing, because for the latter part of the year, I have been working in the prisons, and you have to understand, man, that I'll say this, Gil, and you probably heard, you know who hired me. I got to give a shout out to Suleiman Wood. He hired me. He gave me a shot when nobody else did. And it's something that sticks with me that we used to have these conversations. And the conversation you just say, well, it's a thing in Philadelphia where education is not promoted. And it's been generationally like that amongst our communities. And it made me think, I said, well, I've been around the block. I said, yeah, it's like that almost everywhere. You go to a certain area of poverty or it's like that to where there's so many other things that's more important than that. So what I want to say is Eric, is that the education piece. We have to be able to educate to educate. What I've had to find to do in my program is help guys understand it's okay to still learn something. And this is for a 73-year-old, like a brother coming in my class and say, "What the hell are you going to teach me? I got a daughter who's this, and this, and this, and she's a teacher here," and that's great. But where does it stop? Because when this stuff happened with me, going back to the George Floyd, I called my grandmother and be like, "Yo, what is this? Why? Why does it keep going? What do you know that I don't?" Right? And this is me reaching and latching out. And so what I said to that is me, again, what I found out, guys, and what I mean by that is having the oomph to go find out what it is. Go find out what's going on, find out how you educate them. How can you lead these guys? And typically, the guys we work with in our program, Eric, and you've been there, is that, we're not going to look for problems unless we're in problems. We're not going to look for solutions to problems, right? Because I had a guy tell me, like, "Yo, why are you going down to 20th and such man talking to those guys about, being better fathers?" I said, "Well, the bottom line is, brothers don't work it out until you got to. DHS come in your house and snatch your baby up. How can you do this? You wasn't educated. You didn't know they was going to come in here." And I'll end it like this, Eric. When I was going in front of a court and a judge, I said, "I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't know I could be over there doing that." He said, "Well, Mr. Diggs, I'm so sorry for you. You didn't know that. But you're going to learn today. There's no ignorance underneath the law."
Mm-hmm.
And I knew right then, I said, "Well, damn, I don't know nothing about the law."
Mm-hmm.
But I'm out here moving and shaking like I'm supposed to know. And so that was a learning moment for me. It was an aha moment saying, you know what? Yeah, I don't know everything. I'm going to sit down with my children and say, "Yeah, we don't know anything. But you know what? How can we? Where do we get that? Where do we get that thirst from? Where do we get that energy?" And I think that's where that change comes from. I think that's where it's going to come from, the change for us. It's going to have to shake with us.
All right, but what I'm asking is there a component to focus on fathers? And this is to all the rest of y'all too. Is there a component, or what is the aspect in your program specifically that inspires that or encourages that? I'm trying to get y'all to talk.
Education. I am a parent facilitator, parent educator. And so what I plan to do, what I've always been doing, what I've been doing is coming into 13 years and sitting down, because one of the brothers gonna come to me and say, "Look, how many kids you got? How long you been a dad?" And if you ain't got no children, they don't want to hear it from you. We're not relatives. How you gonna tell me how to change a diaper and you ain't got the responsibility to do such? You see what I'm saying? You don't even hold it. If your niece comes, you can send them jokers back home. You gotta want it, right? And so what I try to do is bring some information that you don't know. And if you do think you know, I'm gonna challenge it. And then to play devil's advocate, say me can come back next week and converse more about it, because you know what that's gonna do? It's gonna keep building that thirst to want to know more about whatever we're talking about. Exactly. And it's gonna span from child support to the prison system.
Okay.
To the laws that you don't know come out 4th of July or January 1st across the nation. See, these are the things. I'm being talking about education, man, in all senses of the word.
Gotcha.
All right. When I talk to the guys, I tell them it's maybe, and a lot of the guys I deal with is 18 and over. Some of the guys is, like you said, my age, but it's about the children. What legacy are we going to live for the children? What we going to leave for our children? What we do is that our children are watching us. They need to see us doing positive things. They need to see our values. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is instill those values in those kids. And hopefully, and I can't guarantee that the kids are going to do right, but we get them that baseline to get them started, to get them to do their thing. And then they make the right choices as they go along, but they got us as a good example. This is what Eric said, "What's your carrot?" That's my carrot. And I tell them, I said, "Look, what you teach your kids is going to carry for the next 3 generations. So we got a heavy responsibility. We're talking about the next 3 generations. We're going to form their mind. And they get to say, wow, I didn't think it was that heavy. Yeah, that father thing is a heavy thing. We got a heavy load.
Mhm.
And we got to change it. If you incarcerated, you got to change what you're doing. When I first went inside the prison, I walked in, I'm seeing the dude, they listening to music and hip hop, and I said, don't you know where you are? Where you going? And I've seen some parents meet their children for the first time inside the prison. So we need to change that dynamic that the kids are not going. I've been talked to a bunch of kids a couple of years ago, 8 years old. I talked to them for a half an hour. Little boy came up to me and said, Mr. Coleman, you gonna be my CO when I go to prison?
What?
I'm like, wow, where'd you come from? Where did that come from? And I found out later that every male in his family has been incarcerated.
Man.
That's crazy.
We had to change that dynamic. We had to get people to start thinking differently. There is a greater world out there. People say United States ain't crap, but it's what we got.
Go somewhere else.
It's what we got. It's what we
Mm-hmm.
got. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lamar, jump in here. Lamar Dixon, jump in here. Well, tell me about your program. How does your program specifically help address some of these issues that we're talking about?
Yeah, so my program, you know, it's about, you know, developing basketball skills, but it's also about developing life skills. You know, it's more about developing the confidence in yourself at an early age. So I went to West Philly High, and you know, and I had some teachers to tell me, like, you know, like I wasn't going to be good, or I wasn't going to be great, or that, you know, no one talked to me about going to college or any of those things. And in my program, you know, I try to instill that. I try to tell them that, you know, you're great, you know, you're special, you know, things that kids need to hear. That, you know, we had some kids that just graduated from high school. So it's, you know, for the last year, we've been working on them. Like, what's the plan? Like, what's next? Like, is it a trade? Is it going to hoop, you know, at a college? Is it just going to school? You know, we try to prepare them for life. We've only been doing it for about a year and a half, but it's been amazing, some of the things that we've done, you know, as far as, you know, we've had over, you know, 250 kids come through the program. We've donated scholarships to West Philly High. We have a alumni book award that we give out every year, that I've been giving out every year for the last 5 years now. We had a book bag drive where we had 200 kids come through. So it's more about, you know, not changing the world with just ideas, but you know, you got to have conviction in your heart to make a change.
All right, now I'm gonna break it down for all of y'all. I'm gonna give y'all a little PR marketing lesson, right? Give me the name of your organization.
Here we go.
All right, and how the people can reach you.
Dedicated to Greatness on Instagram is DTG Basketball. If email is info@dtgbasketball.com. .org, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You could also reach me on Instagram, Lamar.Dixon9.
All right, good. All right, tell me how your program is helping address these disparities that we are talking about, these challenges that we're talking about for Black fathers.
Art Terry, Steel City Dads, Pittsburgh, PA. All right.
Amen.
We're emotional, Eric. We're emotional, Eric. We're emotional, man.
I know, but I'm helping you. I'm here to facilitate.
I think one of the biggest things I'm able to do, because I'm one of only 2 operators inside the program. So I do administration as well as operation. But I love that because it gives me one of the things I appreciate most, and I've come to respect the most, is I have the opportunity to role model for these guys. I'm 62 years old. I got 3 sons myself. My youngest is 23. My oldest is 42. I got to think. Yeah, you know, you get after.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, up there somewhere. But I get the chance to role model. My life ain't always been, you know what I mean, a positive thing. I didn't bump my head several times. I know the wall from the inside and from the outside. That's just the way it went down. One thing I rest assured, though, you never forget where you are. Don't worry about that. Don't ever doubt that. They know exactly where they are. It's escapism. That's what you are seeing right there. But I get the chance to role model. And I get the chance to role model from an educational perspective. My background is not only in the fatherhood stuff, it's been in violence prevention. I'm doing some reentry work. Gil, I definitely need to talk with you about this offline. We get some things together to talk about. But having that opportunity to impact a large number of individuals in a short amount of time, you got to make your time count. But I do that by making sure that I am informative, that I'm focused, and that I have a goal that I strive to achieve in any interaction with any client or organization that I'm doing anything with. So it's by being able to role model that practice, as well as exude the belief and be able to show people that there is actually success available through the diligent application of the skills and the perspectives that we talk about. So I think it's a chance to not just talk it, but to walk it while I talk it, and to walk it and talk it with them. I think that's what I do the most.
Thank you. Thank you. Lamar B., you work with, again, teen dads or teen parents specifically. But what are some things that your program and your programming does to help mitigate some of the issues that we're talking about?
We champion empowerment at the program. Like we want the students to take control, like know that they're in control of their life. Although you're not in control of everything that goes on around your life, you're in control of your life. And we do that by like teaching life skills, teaching parenting skills while they're in school, so that they can be more confident about being a parent. They're young and they dealing with a lot of judgment from older people and from their peers as well, because they're in a minority of teens who are, have children at a young age. And so they're dealing with a lot of confidence issues, and they're sometimes looking at life like it's over now. I'm a young parent. I can't do all the things my friends can do. I can't even do the things that I wanted to do before I had a child. And our thing is to empower them to know, like, you can still do everything you want to do. You just got to do it differently than your friends because you have different circumstances than your friends. So we do that through education, parenting skills, education in class. Resources, our main thing is to try and keep them in school. So another thing that we do is we also try to teach them, not even teach them, we try to assist them, because we like to think that they learn on their own, and we just help them get to that point of playing the long game when it's time to play the long game and prioritizing things, especially since they're teenagers and instant gratification is a big thing for them. So planning and having goals and things of that nature so you can get out of school, especially the young males. Don't give yourself a chance by getting that high school degree. So can't nobody tell you that you can't get this job. Give yourself a chance by, getting your license. So can't nobody tell you can't get that job. So little things like that. And also, we also try to be, in a sense, a little bit of therapeutic to them because they felt unheard. And so I love to I learn from my guys. I like to think just as much, if not more, as they learn from me, because I let them talk. And it's always non-judgmental. And if you want to reach us, it's the ELECT program. We're with the School District of Philadelphia. We are in over 90 schools, but we have the capacity to be in as many schools as we need to be in. It's for high school. We have a few middle school students, and we also are in GED and charter schools as well. Our email is elect, ELECT, at philasd.org. Our phone number is 215-400-4250. And I also like to say, as like a man, I also take pride because I work with the ladies as well, and giving them an example of a positive male that don't want anything from them that sometimes our women don't get to experience of in their life. And lastly,
thank you.
Starting to thank Lamar. We was separated at birth because I'm a West Philly High School alum as well. Between the name and the high school, we want to do some backtracking when we get off of this Zoom.
Yeah, y'all kind of look alike. Little
I ain't gonna talk about the Philly Spartans because, like, I'm a 1975 state champion. And like, we were supposed to run into them West Philly Speed Boys back then. There was Jane Banks and Tillman.
Yeah.
And we was looking for them. Believe that. They over here. I just want y'all to know. All right. It was some cats that was hunting them scalps. Spartans.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I just need to let y'all know, though. All right.
That's okay.
That's where it is.
Hey, real quick, I want to jump in there. Everything focusonfathers.org, www.focusonfathers.org. You can find all the information there, guys. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and I think we're trying to get Twitter, but we're out here.
Got you. Gil, did you get a chance to share your information?
Yeah, Gilbert Coleman. My email is gilbert.coleman@phila.gov. We at the Mayor's Office of Reentry Partnership. We try to help the guys understand that if they're incarcerated, it ain't the end. Because people have come from incarceration and done some great things. It's not over, but you got to work at it. It's not going to be, they're not going to give it to you. You got to work at it. You got to work at it a little bit harder than everybody else. Because you're a little bit behind the 8 ball, but we help them step through those hurdles, give them the information they need, and help them build a plan like everybody else said. Overbrook in the house.
Go ahead, Big Will.
Simon Gratz Bulldogs.
You really do jump in.
Yeah, we all got to jump in there. Bulldogs. So listen, we still got a little bit of time. Ihsan, just I want to touch on this, right? Because I think we would be doing a disservice to our fathers and parents if we don't touch on this issue that many of the fathers here have talked about, this issue of mass incarceration, right? And we haven't touched on how our young men or why our young men are getting caught up in the system. And as many of the folks here have said, are not learning these lessons until later in life, until after they're caught up in the system. So I want to ask, I'm going to be real quick. I want to specifically ask Dewan, Art, and Gil to give us some insight about why do you think our young men are getting caught up in the system, and what can we do to reduce those numbers, and anything else you want to say about that specific topic, and just within 2 minutes. Whoever wants to go first.
All right, I'm gonna give my 2 minutes. What I've been seeing, and Lamar's got a great program with the ELECT program, but I think we reached our guys too late. I would say that we need to reach these guys in elementary school. We got to keep talking to them about life at elementary school. And I tell the guys just to think about it. When do you first get your first group of friends? When do you get your people that you call your clique?
In school.
Not in high school, it's in elementary school.
Yeah.
But these are people in your neighborhood, you go to school with them, that's your first clique or your first group. These are where you're working with these guys, you know them, you in the community, you in school with them, but you in the neighborhood with them as well. And when I grew up, I'm not gonna go back too far, but when I grew up, that's where you first start to get your crew together and you protect your neighborhood. So we need to start working at these guys at the earlier ages. I would say 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We need to start working with them then. Because that's when they get their first crew. That's when they start to get in trouble. That's when and as they say, child development, you start straying away from your parents. We need to get them at that age. That's
Art, brother Art, let me, what do you have to say for that?
Real simple for me. I attribute it to learned behavior. We got to realize our children watch much more than they say. Sadly, the blame lies with us. They're exhibiting behaviors that we have allowed to foster and fester within them without addressing them. It's like a garden. You can plant some things in there, but if you don't pull them weeds up, you're going to have a garden full of weeds. We're spending much more time planting flowers than we are weeding. And weeding is essential. Weeding is what we're doing now in the midst of COVID and in the midst of the George Floyd process. We're weeding and we're pruning the minds of our young people. They are seeing a different reality right now. If a kid grows up and all he sees is somebody hustling, then he's going to realize and respect that, hey, this is the way that he made a way through. That's my man's. It worked for him. I'm going to do it for me. Fathering is the same way. Primarily, we father the way that we were fathered. If we were not fathered, we're left to find a methodology that we wish to apply to what we're faced with.
Mhm.
So it's learned behavior for one. And what I would tell them is develop new role models. Read.
Mm.
It's appalling to me how many grown men read like at a sub-high school level because we don't apply these skills. We're original man for one reason only, is that we are imbued with everything essential to survive on this earth and to thrive on it. We're allowing those skills to deteriorate, in my humble opinion. And I think it's only our fault that those skills are deteriorating. I'm proud to be on this call with you, brothers, because I see this is an army. This is a like-minded army. But we need to recruit some more, dog. We need more folks in this army. We got to make sure that we continue to lead by example. Be the one that shows them a new way. Be the one that brings a new question to the table. Be the one that they sense that there is a different aura about, because it's oral. We're energy and water. We respond to energy and water. So, I mean, you know, allow the energy in you, man, to shine through. Don't be afraid to correct these cats either, because humbly, I've been in this game for about the last 25 years, and I have yet to find a kid who did not give me exactly what I expected of him, if I made my expectations clear.
Thank you. Dewan, add to that, because I want to chime in, but I want to let Dewan answer that question.
This is something I've pondered on for many times, primarily because I've been on both sides of the fence, and I think probably most of us have to some degree. And so when you come on the other side, I hate to say it like that, but it's viewed that way. I still got young guys who look at me and be like, "Oh, gee, I just want to know how you do it. How did you get there? How did you get here?" And so what I've come up with, and this translates to my fathering personally as well, because I haven't always been a great pop. I was the father I thought that I had to be, given the time and the perception of the relationship. But what I'm, just to cut real short to it, is that what I found out, I have to allow my children to see my benefits. Let them see the benefits. And what I mean by that, like, it's real simple. I don't know how to really explain it other than this. Listen, if you're working at a job for 4 or 5 years and you ain't got a raise yet, what are you doing? You are now looking for a new place of employment where you're accepted. Okay, you have value, you have a face, you have a voice. All right, and so what I mean by that, I allow my children. I strongly believe we got to start at the home. All right, because if I want to influence somebody else's home, they're going to look at how I'm looked at, how relative I am to my community, to my peers. You know, am I going to respect a guy who peers don't respect him? So all these things come into play. And so what I've been doing is trying to help them see benefits of making those small, subtle changes. Go in the house tonight. Don't argue with her right now. Just give her 20. Y'all both take 24 hours. Come back to it. It's not that big. Hey, look, be honest. Don't run from the kid. Tell them you ain't got the damn money. You know, it's just real simple. And allowing them to see that and kind of helping the guys to feel accepted in that. Because that's what drove me to the other side. I didn't feel as though my old heads were understanding where the hell I was at. And so I was like, you know, I'm out of here. And I went to the other side where they accepted me because they were just as effed up as I was. Just as uneducated as I was. Just as ignorant as I was. And so that began, Mr. Terry, to fester and grow his own legs and arms and become his own entity. And so now you got something, not an epidemic, but a pandemic, right? And I'm not talking about COVID. I'm not speaking about COVID at all. Anybody listen to me? I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about us. I'm speaking to us. And I know I got white, Caucasian, my Spanish brothers and everything, but I'm speaking about us. I love everybody, but I'm speaking about us. And so that's why I comment with it, Eric. It's trying to help get across that, yo, we ain't gonna never be listen, I come from an era where there's a whole slew of us who honestly believe that we ain't gonna never be. Mr. Dixon, you said, yeah, teachers who would try to indoctrinate you and say, look, man, you ain't gonna be nothing but you see those jokes, you ain't gonna be nothing but those, and just clump you together because of our neighborhoods, right, Gil? Because of what we hung with, right? And so I say that because that's what we got to try to pull back the layers from, because it's so thick and it's so toxic to the point where, yo, you better kill him or he's gonna kill you. That's where we're at, and we have to look at it for what it really is. And so that's what I mean by the whole education piece, and that's the real plight that I've had a hard time throughout my career, is trying to help brothers saying, hey, look, it's okay to go learn something.
So,
I don't care if it's a recipe.
Yeah, Dewan, let me jump in here real quick.
Absolutely.
And I wanna, first of all, I want to thank all of you for your perspectives and your viewpoints on this. I want to add a component that I think is missing from the conversation. I think Gil touched on it a little bit when he talked about we don't start early enough. But one of the reasons why we even have to so-called start at that time is because the Black community has been under constant siege for 400 years that we've been here. So we cannot compare ourselves to any other community because we have been under attack. And so the reality is that disconnect, Dewan, that you talked about, that the old heads, you don't feel like you connect with them, is because we are operating in a system that is broken and is specifically designed to operate against us. And so because of that, we have a whole different learning curve than any other community. And so when we talk about our young men getting caught up in the system is designed to catch them. See, it's not like anybody else. The system is really designed to Lamar Brennan talked about it earlier about how they see us, about being a very calm dude, but still being stopped by police, knowing that any female in his family could drive his car and never be stopped because she's a female. But once a Black man is behind the wheel, society looks at us different. And if we're not teaching our young Black boys and Black girls that, we are doing them a disservice. And what has happened, in my opinion, is that we have failed to do that. I used to be a carpenter. So when I started in the Carpenters Union, I started later than a lot of my white counterparts. Not only did I start later than my white counterparts, but a lot of them had brothers and uncles already in the trades. And a lot of them had gone to schools where they had shop in high school where they were able to learn some basic skills, right? And so for all the Black carpenters that joined, that passed the test and got in, they were still outpaced by their white counterparts. Why? Because they didn't grow up in a system that prepared them. And so what I'm saying is that we are doing a failure, and it's not inherent to us. That's the other thing where white race supremacy really digs in, where it is the belief that there is something in us as Black men that's a failure. And it's not inherent in us. There's a system that's set up to cause us to fail. So when Terry was talking about, when Art Terry was talking about the failure of grown men to read above a middle grade level, that's a failure of the education system. And then on top of it, it's an economic system because, okay, we could go out here and make some money, right? Because we worried about making money. I don't need to read a book if I can go out here and hustle. And so again, the lack of perpetuating education. So I feel like it is on fathers, because mothers are doing the brunt of the work, and we all know this. They've been doing the brunt of the work for generations because we've been placed in a different set of circumstances. We have to begin to prepare and educate our children at home, because we can't just turn them over to the education system. Like Lamar Brennan was saying earlier, he works for the School District of Philadelphia, and he sees certain failings. We've all reiterated this need for education on multiple levels, whether it's from playing solitaire with our grandmom at the table, or whether it's from preparing for tests in order to get into a higher institution. We need to train our children at home and don't leave them to the mercy of the system, because the system, we already know what the system is going to do to us. So I just want to reiterate that fact that as Black men, we are good, we are whole. Something that Art Terry said about being an original man here is we have everything we need to do to survive on this earth, but we also have to recognize that we are under assault. And if we don't recognize you're under assault, you know, it's just like being in a street fight. We all been in street fights, right? It's like being in a street fight. Somebody just not come up upside your head when you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
We are setting our children up to get knocked upside of the head without them even being aware of it if we don't really address it as fathers first. So I just wanted to put that out there, and again reiterate the things that were already shared and get us to actually look at the whole pie together. Ihsan.
Yeah, so I'm going to like close us out for the night, but I wanted to share a couple things. So I wanted to talk about some of the programming that MBKCares is going to have to address some of the very things that were discussed here tonight. And then also wanted to share some resources that can be educational that are available in Netflix. So I was watching this documentary the night before last. It was called 13th. It's on Netflix right now, and it really explains heavily about how there was a transition from slavery to the incarceration system, and how there's a lot of organizations, like big corporations are behind it, but there's also political hands mixed with the corporations. It teaches a history that I wasn't aware of. I knew that things were there, but I didn't actually see the whole blueprint. So I highly recommend people watch this documentary. It's called 13th. Lamar Dixon was telling me about a video right now. It's called Just Mercy. It's actually available right now for free. Y'all want to stream it? YouTube is allowing people to see it for free. You don't have to pay to rent it at all. And they provided that to make sure that people during this time are being educated. A movie that I love a lot, I saw it a few years ago. It's called Hidden Figures. If you haven't seen it, that's the kind of rich history that we should be learning about. Without our people, we wouldn't have been on the moon. Like, there were black astronauts who had to go through, female astronauts at that, who had to go through heavy racism just to prove themselves worthy of being recognized and capable of getting us to fly in spaceships. And they were, without them, we wouldn't be there. And the movie's called Hidden Figures for a reason. They were hidden from our history, those people, those figures, but it also has to do with math. They were brilliant mathematicians. So I highly recommend people watch that movie. I wanted to talk about chess. Eric mentioned chess. I have a son who, he's addicted to Fortnite. Both of my sons are actually. But my youngest son has found interest now in playing chess. And I highly recommend that anybody out there who has a son or a daughter, that you teach them how to play chess. Because although it's competitive and it is a game of skill, it actually teaches them to think ahead. And if you get them to start thinking ahead, they can start following math differently. They start thinking about the next step, and they start thinking about the order of operations instead of just, let me beat this game that's pointless, that has nothing to do with me enhancing the way my mind works. Those are two things. Eric mentioned about the construction services industry. We had a guest on here maybe about a month ago now. His name was Cody Nixon. And Cody started a program called Reboot Construction Services. If there's anybody out there who's interested in learning about the skills of carpentry trade, Cody and his company, they teach it to young black people, the skills of carpentry on a grassroots level, so that you can make $50 an hour and not have to find yourself making a little bit of money and out here hustling. So there's resources out here that are available to make sure that we don't have to go through the same routes, or our children don't have to go through the same journeys that we went through. It's called Reboot Construction Services. I'll make sure I add all these things in the comments under the video when I re-edit this and post it. And finally, well, the final point before I talk about MBKCares, we have a sister, she's a friend of mine named Renata Jeffries. Renata realized a while ago that people don't celebrate fathers when Father's Day comes up. Mothers take it as an opportunity to get on Facebook or on Instagram and say, Happy Father's Day to all the mothers who are the real dads out there and all that kind of stuff. There are fathers out here who are playing their role. And there are fathers who are caught up in a system that doesn't allow them to play their role. Regardless, we wouldn't be here without a father. We wouldn't be here without a male playing a part, right? So Renata started a fundraiser about 7 years ago, and she goes around the city and gives out Father's Day cards to random strangers. She just walks up and gives them cards to recognize them. And she does this out of her own pocket. She has a fundraiser. I would like to have us contribute to her fundraiser. And this is to anybody out there. Her Cash App name is Renata J, and that's RENATA JAY is her Cash App. If you were to donate $10, that's 20 Father's Day cards that she can get. She goes and she gets these cards, and she goes out on the street on the grind and makes sure that people are recognized and they feel appreciated. Finally, MBK Cares, in light of all the things that are going on, one of our programs is called Cultural Cooperation. And that's going to be, it was created to be a conversation and a healing program in the community to deal with gentrification. I'm from Southwest Philly, and I went to West Philly High too. So you got 3 speed boys on here. The area outside of West Philly High, even, hold up. West Philly High itself.
And I still ain't worried.
The building itself is now condominiums. They turned West Philly High on 47th and Wona into a condo.
They did the same thing to Shenley High School, brother. So
Yeah.
we there.
Yeah. So the conversation or the community, the cultural cooperation program that we're going to initiate actually in the fall of this year is to bring together people from communities where gentrification impacted them. And that conversation has changed in the last couple of weeks, because I thought it was going to just be a conversation between people living in the same neighborhood. White America is now open to a conversation and realizes, like, we have been done wrong. And some of the places you even are able to live now are because of things being done systemically to get us out of there. So we wanted to bring this program up, and it has relevance, and the details of how it's going to play out are still under development, but pay attention to how cultural cooperation is going to be manifested through MBK Cares in the next few years. We will bring about change. If there's a point I want to leave everybody on, please don't get caught up in reverse racism. Because right now we realize that people have done us wrong for so long. Don't allow that to fester and cause you to have hate. Be considerate and be aware that some of the things out here might just be pacifiers. People might want us to just calm down so that they can actually get back to normal. Make America great again. To them, that means get things back in order and shut the Black people up. However, that's not room for us to be ignorant, illiterate. A lot of people in jail have one thing in common. I think 4 out of 5 of them can't read. So literacy plays a part from 5th grade. From 5 years old up, like you were saying. Don't allow this stuff to become something where we're blind to and just think it's going away. It's not going away. It took 400 years to get here. It's going to take years and years for it to change. But the conversation cannot stop. It doesn't mean loot. That doesn't mean destroy our own communities, our own supermarkets, our own CVS's. God knows I wish y'all did it in another neighborhood instead of our own. But I'm not mad at people for showing and expressing what they did. I do wish we didn't do it to our own. But just keep the conversation going and don't allow it to fester into hate for white people. There's some white people who have played a role in helping us out in this life. Lamar and I went to West Philly High. There was a colonel who was a white man who used to speak truth to us and helped us to get education in a school that didn't have anything for us in the regular curriculum. He made sure that we learned something in the ROTC program. He made sure that we realized that we had a man who could invest in our lives as a mentor, not white Jesus, but a man who really gave a damn. So I just appreciate some of the people who have been in my life, and I don't want this to ever come across as we hate white people, because we don't. We hate hatred. We hate injustice. We hate not being seen and respected and heard. But as fathers, we hate not being significant to our families, to our communities, and we are relearning from a system that took us out of it. With the drugs, with slavery, with incarceration, we've been removed, and we're starting behind in the race. But it's a marathon, and we are going to win. I appreciate every single one of y'all on here tonight. I salute y'all. I know y'all have fights that y'all can't even express on here. Battles when you cry. And men, it's okay to cry. Tell your sons you can cry. I know we don't want them to be weak, but tell them, you go ahead, you can cry. You can cry. You can cry on my shoulder. Hug a brother. All right, I'm done. But I appreciate y'all for being on here tonight. I love every one of y'all. Eric, you want to say anything to close us out, brother?
Yeah, I don't want to go too much longer, but I want everybody on here to share, one word or one thought as we part. I came across, there's a hashtag going around for a social media campaign called Black Men Read. And it's to really dispel this myth about Black illiteracy and to encourage more reading amongst Black men. I personally recommended The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys by Jawanja Kajufu. And, there was another one I can't remember off the top of my head, but the Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. But I want each of our panelists to just share one word or one brief, hence the word brief sentence to take us home about your experience here tonight. And we can start with whoever.
I'll go. For me, the word is a simple one, man. It's connected. I thank y'all for the spirit you brought to this conversation tonight. It strengthened me.
Thank you, Art. Anyone else?
Love, brother. I got two words. Love, and for my young brothers in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, all across the nation, ghettos all across the nation, man, wherever y'all reaching at. For all my young brothers, my black and brown brothers, live. I mean that. You heard me say this before, Eric. What do you mean? No, just live so you can learn a little. That's it. Live. Stay alive. Stay free. And I love y'all. That's it.
All I got to say is to tell the brothers to hold on, because change is coming.
Yes, sir.
Hold on. All right. Lamar's?
I think is on mute. Go ahead.
Oh, so my one word, and I got a book to recommend too. My one word would be purpose. We all got purpose. Some of us take longer to find them than others. Be on that search for whatever your purpose is. You make the world a better place in your life, a more quality life in the process. And then, the book that I want to recommend people to read did a lot for me, called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I'm a big believer in like science.
Yes.
Everything is some sort of science to a degree, includes social science, political science, and the science behind what even makes somebody a so-called success. So that book goes into a lot of things that help people when they down on themselves as to why they didn't get to a certain point in life or what they need to do to get to a certain point. Because there's a bunch of social science books that touch on some of the things we talked about today.
Excellent. Malcolm Gladwell is dope. Yes, thank you. Lamar D.
Yeah, I don't have the words to describe it, but I'm fulfilled. Like just to listen to like Art and Gil and just they're a little older, and just to hear the wisdom that they speak, I appreciate everything that everyone said this evening. Yeah, it was 2 resources. I like it's a book called Cry Like a Man by Jason Wilson. It's a really good book. It kind of touched on what Ihsan was talking about, and also Just Mercy. It's available on YouTube, Prime. It's a really good movie. I enjoyed watching it. It's a lot of like great quotes in it. So.
Excellent, gentlemen. Well, again, this is Eric Marsh. I represent the Fathering Circle. For anybody that wants to reach me, you can reach me at my email address is marsheric, SR for senior, marshericsenior@gmail.com. And I just want to thank all of you for being here with us tonight. And join us again next week for the second part of this conversation with Black fathers. Again, my word, I guess I want to leave with is, stand up. Stand up. So thank you.
Can I get a word in there too?
Go ahead, Ihsan.
T-boys, thank you. That wasn't one of y'all.
Wait a minute, what was that?
T-boys.
And here y'all go with that stuff, bro.
Oh, man. That's what's up.
Brothers, it's nothing but love, man. I hope to see all of you soon. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Bless you too.
Thank you all.
Yes.